Okay, let's unpack this. Usually, when we look at human development, we expect it to read like a standard architectural blueprint. First you pour the foundation, then you frame the walls.
Right. Predictable milestones happening in a very specific sequential order.
Yeah, but then you look at a certain subset of incredibly brilliant minds, and suddenly that blueprint is just completely inverted.
They are basically building the penthouse suite before they've even laid the ground floor.
Exactly. So today we are taking a deep dive into the clinical literature behind these minds. It is a phenomenon called Twice-Exceptionality, or 2E.
Right. It is that wild paradox where profound intellectual giftedness meets neurodivergence like ADHD, ASD, or SLD.
And our mission today is to look at how standard educational and medical systems fundamentally misread this hidden architecture and, why understanding it is crucial for you and how we're spot human potential in general.
Absolutely. Because to understand the 2A adult, we really have to look at early childhood first.
Yeah, where that extraordinary potential frequently gets flagged as a severe deficit, right?
It really does. Because early brain energy is completely monopolized by building these immense analytical skills, there is sometimes literally nothing left over for basic milestones, like early expressive speech.
Oh, wait, so they just do not talk.
Right. Well, clinicians actually call this the Einstein Syndrome. You see it in figures like the mathematician Srinivasa Ramanujan. He was a profoundly late talker who later completely revolutionized advanced mathematics.
Wow.
It is a biological trade-off. The developing brain actively reallocates resources to prioritize complex visual-spatial computing over speaking.
Okay, so is it sort of like a city temporarily shutting down its streetlights so it can push all its power into upgrading the underground electrical grid?
Oh, I like that analogy.
Like on the surface, it looks dark, like nothing is happening. But underneath, this massive infrastructure is going online. It reminds me of the story of Garrett from our sources.
Oh, yeah, the 2-year-old.
Yeah, right. The kid was 2 years old and reading medicine labels in drugstores. But he gets an autism diagnosis simply because he lined up his baby blocks alphabetically. They were so focused on the blocks, they completely ignored his precocious reading.
What's fascinating here is how often the medical system misses that underground grid entirely. The literature highlights a major systemic flaw called confirmatory diagnosis.
Confirmatory diagnosis, meaning they just see what they expect to see.
Exactly. A clinician sees the dark streetlights, the lack of speech or an atypical play style, and immediately categorizes it as a disorder. They are actively evaluating a child seeking a deficit to confirm.
Missing the big picture completely.
Right. They entirely miss the asynchronous development. This is where a child might have the intellect of a teenager, but, say, the emotional regulation of a toddler.
But as they grow up, this profound internal wiring difference doesn't just magically normalize, does it?
No, not at all. They end up relying on an interest-based nervous system.
An interest-based nervous system.
Yeah, so to bypass standard executive dysfunction, the 2E brain requires intense novelty, genuine passion, or hyper-focus just to engage.
But wait, let me push back a little here. If they figure out how to harness that hyper-focus and successfully become, a C-suite executive or a top-tier surgeon, haven't they basically won? I mean, why is masking actually a problem if it gets results?
Well, this raises an important question because that external success completely hides a devastating physiological cost. Masking isn't just acting.
What do you mean by physiological cost?
I mean, these individuals are manually computing eye contact, social cues, and executive functions that neurotypical brains just handle on autopilot.
Oh, wow.
Because their brains are constantly running in overdrive just to blend in, their bodies get stuck in a permanent state of fight or flight.
So their system is literally wearing itself out.
Precisely. The clinical markers for this are alarming. We see chronically elevated hair cortisol and collapsed heart rate variability.
Both of which are massive red flags for severe stress.
Right. Exactly. Systemic stress and literal neurodivergent burnout. And there is a deeply tragic statistic in the research, too.
What is it?
Having an IQ over 120 in autistic individuals correlates with a 7.5 times higher suicide rate compared to the general population.
Wait, 7.5 times higher? That is heartbreaking.
It is. Their immense intellect grants them a hyper-acute, painful awareness of their societal exclusion. They feel the sheer weight of maintaining that mask every single day.
You know, this isn't just a clinical problem. It impacts the businesses we work in and the schools we send our kids to.
Absolutely.
When these minds actually find autonomous, strength-based environments where they do not have to mask, they drive immense innovation. Look at late-blooming athletes like Primož Roglič.
Right, the cyclist.
Yeah, he didn't even ride a bike competitively until his 20s, but became an Olympic gold medalist. Or unstructured innovators like Colonel Sanders, who bypassed rigid early training to completely dominate their fields.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it proved that delayed engagement with traditional milestones doesn't prevent elite capability. It often signifies a mind gestating alternative, highly specialized skills that standard timelines just cannot accommodate.
So what does this all mean? It means society has to stop pathologizing alternative cognitive timelines.
Exactly.
Which leaves you with something to think about today. If our standard schools and corporate offices are specifically designed to demand neurotypical conformity, what world-changing solutions and brilliant innovations are we completely losing right now, simply because these minds are too exhausted from masking to build them? Maybe it's time we stop demanding that the blueprint be built in order.